Over the past 3 years, I've rebuilt so many cars, but I believe all of this has led up to this opportunity right now, which I have to take.
It began with a broken Bugatti, and somehow it ended with $2 billion companies fighting over one man's story. Matt Armstrong never expected any of this attention, yet here we are. Reportedly, Netflix moved first, hoping to quietly secure the rights to his incredible journey. Then, according to the claims surrounding this story, the Amazon CEO just offered to outbid them completely, sparking what looks like a complete meltdown behind the scenes. A wrecked hypercar somehow became the center of a massive reported bidding war. How did one mechanic become this valuable, and who will actually win? This just might be the biggest automobile story of the decade. Netflix versus Amazon. Who gets Matt Armstrong's story? To understand why this story became so valuable, it helps to look back at everything that led to this moment. Matt started as a BMX rider, chasing a dream that ended suddenly after one badly injured shoulder. He returned to the world he grew up in, fixing cars, and eventually rebuilt a badly damaged Audi for just 600 pounds. That small project helped him discover a new path, and slowly his YouTube channel grew as the cars became more expensive and more ambitious. Then came the Bugatti. The manufacturer reportedly refused to provide the parts Matt needed, so he found another way. The car was taken apart, custom components were engineered from scratch, and after months of work, the impossible repair was finally completed. Millions of people watched it happen. Soon after came the Ferrari, and a strikingly similar set of obstacles. Now, according to the claims presented in the story, Matt's journey has reportedly caught the attention of two major streaming companies. Netflix allegedly saw the potential first, reportedly considering a deal worth tens of millions of dollars. Then Amazon allegedly entered the picture as well, with claims suggesting it was prepared to outbid Netflix entirely. This raises an interesting question about what comes next for Matt. A major streaming deal could introduce his story to millions of brand new viewers around the world, people who may have never heard of him before. At the same time, Matt already has millions of loyal viewers who have followed him from that 600-pound Audi all the way to a multi-million-dollar Bugatti. Would he be willing to give up some control over his own story in exchange for a massive streaming deal? Or would he choose to stay independent, continuing to film everything himself, exactly the way he always has? In the end, this story began with something simple, a mechanic trying to repair one severely damaged Bugatti. When the manufacturer said no, Matt refused to give up and found another way forward. In doing so, he may have created something far bigger than a single car, a story now reportedly valuable enough to spark serious interest from two of the biggest entertainment companies in the world. From Bugatti to Ferrari, a bigger fight over who can repair a car. Just when it seemed Matt's battle with Bugatti might be a one-time event, a new project appeared, and it looked strangely familiar. This time, the car was a Ferrari 296 GTB, another exotic, expensive, and heavily damaged vehicle. Matt acquired the car, reportedly expecting a difficult repair, but what followed looked a lot like the Bugatti situation all over again. Parts, according to the story, were allegedly blocked or extremely difficult to obtain. The Ferrari's hybrid battery management system created an entirely new obstacle. Without the correct authorization, the car simply would not start. The diagnostic software needed to properly communicate with the vehicle's systems was tightly controlled by Ferrari itself, leaving outside mechanics with very limited options. Beyond the software problems, the team reportedly ran into additional rules surrounding crash-damaged exotic vehicles, including requirements around authorized body shop inspections, the kind of approval that only certain official repair centers are allowed to give. Suddenly, the Bugatti story did not look like an isolated disagreement anymore. It looked like a pattern. The documentary now raises a much larger question, one that reaches far beyond Matt Armstrong or any single car brand. When someone spends millions of dollars to own an exotic vehicle, do they actually have the right to repair that vehicle themselves? Or does the manufacturer still control what happens to it, long after the sale is complete? This is the moment Matt's story shifts from being simply about car repair. It becomes something bigger, a story about independent mechanics, manufacturer control, advanced technology, and the enormous power major car brands hold over vehicles that technically belong to someone else. According to the claims surrounding this story, that bigger conversation may be exactly why Matt's journey caught the attention of two of the largest entertainment companies in the world. Because reportedly, both Netflix and Amazon began looking closely at the mechanic who dared to challenge Bugatti and then challenged Ferrari as well. What happened next would turn a simple story about broken cars into a reported bidding war over who gets to tell it. The Bugatti that Bugatti wouldn't help repair. The crashed Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport did not look like a car anymore. It looked like a warning. The front end was destroyed, the airbags had deployed, and the carbon fiber body was cracked in more than one place. The transmission was damaged, and the engine mount, the very piece holding the powertrain in place, was bent and broken. This was not a normal repair job. The car's owner, Alex Gonzalez, had reportedly bought the salvage vehicle back from auction for around $1,900,000. He believed the car could be saved, and he brought in Matt Armstrong to try. Matt's team quickly ran into a wall. To repair a Bugatti properly, they needed official parts. Those parts came from the manufacturer, and the manufacturer was not willing to help. According to the story, the car's VIN had been locked, which meant Matt could not simply order what he needed the way any other customer might. Bugatti reportedly pointed to safety concerns. A car this badly damaged, they said, needed factory-level expertise and factory-level equipment. Anything less, they suggested, could put a future driver at risk. Matt saw it differently. He believed the car could be rebuilt with enough patience, enough skill, and enough creative problem-solving, even without the manufacturer's blessing. Then came a new voice in the story. Mate Rimac, the CEO of Bugatti Rimac, reportedly spoke publicly about the risks involved. He warned about the gearbox housing, and he warned about the carbon monocoque, the central structure that keeps the entire car safe in a crash. Repairing these things incorrectly, he suggested, could be dangerous. The disagreement was now out in the open, a mechanic on one side and one of the most exclusive car manufacturers in the world on the other. Matt was left facing a decision that would define the entire project. If Bugatti would not give him the parts he needed, he would have to find them somewhere else or build them himself. But before we go further into that impossible rebuild, we need to rewind the clock. Because to understand why Matt Armstrong even attempted this fight, we first need to understand who he was long before he ever touched a Bugatti. Who was Matt Armstrong before the Bugatti? Long before Matt Armstrong stood beside a wrecked, multi-million-dollar hypercar, he was just a boy growing up around engines and tools. His father, Tony Armstrong, ran a garage, and the smell of oil and metal was simply part of everyday life. Fixing cars, however, was not Matt's first dream. As a teenager, Matt found something else that excited him more: BMX riding. He was talented, and he worked his way up until he became a sponsored international rider with Mad Gear Pro. He traveled and competed across Europe and the Middle East, chasing a career that felt exciting and full of possibility. Then, at the BMX World Championships in Germany, everything changed in a single moment. During a qualifying run, Matt attempted a difficult trick called a 720 tail whip. Something went wrong, and he badly dislocated his shoulder. Somehow, he still managed to qualify in 16th place, but his body would not let him compete in the finals. The injury never fully healed. His shoulder continued to dislocate unexpectedly long after the competition ended, making it impossible to continue at a professional level. Just like that, his BMX career was over. Matt returned home, and he returned to the world he had grown up in: cars and garages. He took different jobs simply to get by, unsure exactly what direction his life would take next. He could not have known it yet, But the end of one dream was quietly setting up the beginning of another, one that would eventually make him famous to millions of people around the world. Because broken bones and broken bikes were about to be replaced by something else entirely, broken cars, and the story of how Matt learned to bring them back to life would soon become impossible to ignore. It all started, reportedly, with a badly damaged Audi TT, a car worth so little money that almost nobody else would have bothered to save it. The 600-pound Audi that built Matt's empire. Before the Bugatti, before the fame, and before millions of people knew his name, Matt Armstrong was simply a young man with a camera and a garage. He had actually created his YouTube channel back in 2013, but at first, it had nothing to do with cars at all. It was built around his BMX videos, a small record of the sport he loved. When his BMX career ended, his camera sat quietly for a while, waiting for a new purpose. That purpose arrived in an unexpected way. Matt's girlfriend, Hannah Smith, owned an Audi TT, and one day, that car was badly damaged in an accident. Instead of letting it go to scrap, Matt saw an opportunity. He bought the wrecked Audi back from the insurance company for just £600, a tiny amount of money for a car that most people had already given up on. He decided to rebuild it himself, and this time he filmed everything. People started watching not because they were car experts, but because they wanted to know one simple thing: would Matt actually succeed? That question became the heartbeat of his channel. The formula worked, so Matt kept going. After the Audi came bigger and more expensive projects, including a damaged Maserati and eventually a Rolls-Royce. Each video brought in more viewers, and slowly his channel grew from a small hobby into something much bigger. By the time Matt reached the wrecked Bugatti Chiron, he was no longer an unknown mechanic working quietly in a small garage. He had millions of people watching his every move, waiting to see what impossible car he would take on next. This explains why the Bugatti project mattered so much. It was not simply another expensive car. It was the ultimate test of everything Matt had built since that 600-pound Audi: his skill, his patience, and his refusal to give up when a manufacturer said no. Now, with millions of eyes watching, and with official Bugatti parts still out of reach, Matt had no choice but to begin the impossible repair the hard way. The battery had to come out, the fuel lines had to come apart. The entire car, in fact, was about to be split into two separate pieces, and what the team found underneath would change the direction of the entire project. The impossible repair begins. With official Bugatti parts still out of reach, Matt and his team faced a difficult truth. If the manufacturer would not help them, they would have to solve every problem on their own. The most serious issue was hiding near the engine. When the crash happened, the impact had pushed the engine forward, badly damaging the mount that was supposed to hold the powertrain steady. This single piece of damage created a much bigger challenge, because to properly reach it, the team could not simply work around the outside of the car. They had to split the Bugatti into two separate halves. This was the exact procedure that mate Rimac had warned about earlier, a repair that reportedly required specialized tools and specialized expertise. Still, Matt's team pressed forward. Carefully, piece by piece, they began disconnecting everything that held the car together. The battery came out first. Next came the coolant lines, followed by the delicate electrical systems running through the vehicle. The fuel lines were removed as well, along with several other connections joining the front and rear sections of the car. Finally, after all of that careful work, the Bugatti was pulled apart. What they found inside told the full story of the crash. The engine had visibly shifted out of position. Several other components nearby were damaged as well, and worst of all, the team discovered a coolant pipe that had been badly pinched during the impact. Bugatti was not providing solutions, so Matt needed to find them somewhere else. That search led the team to an unexpected specialist, a man simply known as Bob, working out of a small facility called the Machine Shop. Nobody watching could have guessed just how important Bob was about to become. Because rebuilding a wrecked Bugatti without any help from Bugatti itself would take more than tools and determination alone. It would take real engineering creativity, the kind normally reserved for factories, not garages. What Bob was about to do next would turn out to be one of the most surprising parts of the entire rebuild. How Matt rebuilt a Bugatti without Bugatti. With Bugatti refusing to help, Matt's team had to become their own manufacturer, building solutions that simply did not exist anywhere else. This is where Bob, from a small operation called the Machine Shop, became one of the most important people in the entire project. The damaged engine mount was the first major challenge. Instead of waiting for a replacement that would never come, Bob used a three-dimensional scanner to capture the exact shape of the broken part. That scan was then turned into a digital CAD model, a kind of blueprint on a computer. From there, an entirely new engine mount was carved out of solid aluminum using a CNC machine, a process that cuts metal with incredible precision. The radiators presented another serious problem. The Bugatti Chiron reportedly uses 10 separate radiators, and since replacements could not be sourced anywhere, the team had no choice but to build new ones, completely from scratch. Then came the front crash bar, a critical safety piece protecting the front of the car. After roughly 60 hours of careful work, a custom version was finally created. Along the way, the team made some surprising discoveries. They reportedly found that a knee airbag from a simple Audi A3 appeared to fit correctly inside the Bugatti. Matt also pointed out something people rarely think about. The accelerator pedal itself was simply a molded piece of plastic, not some mysterious high-tech part at all. These small discoveries opened up a much bigger conversation about the surprising relationship between Bugatti and the wider Volkswagen Group, a group of brands that has included both Audi and Volkswagen. Every obstacle created by the crash and every part Bugatti refused to provide forced Matt's team to think more creatively than before. Months of work had gone into this rebuild, months of scanning, machining, fabricating, and problem-solving. Still, one enormous question remained, unanswered, hanging over the entire garage. After everything Matt and his team had done, after every custom part, every clever workaround, and every sleepless night, would this once destroyed, written-off Bugatti actually start again, or had all of this work been for nothing? The moment the impossible Bugatti came back to life. After months of cutting, scanning, machining, and problem-solving, Matt's team had finally reached the final stage, putting the entire Bugatti back together as one whole car again. The two separated halves, the front and the rear, were carefully brought back together. 14 titanium bolts were used to reconnect them, each one holding the structure of this incredibly rare hypercar in place. The cooling system, rebuilt from scratch, was reconnected piece by piece. The fuel lines were reattached, and the intercooler, along with the ECU, the small computer that manages much of the car's performance, were carefully placed back into position. Even with everything reassembled, one serious worry remained. Before the car had ever reached Matt's workshop, it had reportedly been driven without any coolant at all. That kind of mistake can cause severe damage deep inside an engine, damage that sometimes cannot be seen from the outside. If the engine had suffered internal harm, months of careful work could still end in failure. There was only one way to find out. Matt turned the key. For a brief moment, nobody knew what would happen next. Then, the engine started. The custom Valvetronic exhaust system came alive with sound, filling the workshop with proof that the impossible rebuild had actually worked. The Bugatti, the same car that had once been crushed, damaged, and abandoned by its own manufacturer, was now running again. Soon after, Matt drove the car for the very first time since the crash. The Bugatti that had been written off and left for salvage had returned, not just to running condition, but to the road itself. For a moment, it seemed like the story might end there, a mechanic, a wrecked hypercar, and an impossible repair completed against all odds. Instead, the story was only getting bigger. Because Matt was not finished challenging major manufacturers, and his next project, involving an entirely different exotic car, suggested that his fight with Bugatti may not have been an isolated incident at all. A new car, a new manufacturer, and a new set of obstacles were waiting. And this next one would take Matt's story far beyond a single Bugatti, and into a much bigger conversation about who really controls the right to repair. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.